The Forgotten Shadow. Liam Neeson woke up in an unfamiliar room. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of damp wood and old paper. Moonlight filtered through a cracked window, illuminating a vintage rotary phone sitting on an antique desk. His head throbbed as fragments of the previous evening flickered in his mind. A quiet dinner, a phone call, then nothing. A muffled noise outside the door snapped him back to the present. His pulse quickened. Who had brought him here? The phone rang. Its shrill tone pierced the silence, making him jump. Hesitating, Liam picked up the receiver. "Mr. Neeson," a distorted voice rasped. "You've been chosen." "Chosen for what?" he demanded, gripping the phone tightly. "You have 24 hours to uncover the truth. Fail, and the world will forget you ever existed." Before he could respond, the line went dead. He stared at the phone in disbelief. The world would forget him? What did that even mean? Suddenly, the door creaked open, revealing a long hallway lined with flickering candles. A figure stood at the far end, tall, cloaked, and motionless. Its face was obscured by shadow, but Liam could feel its gaze, cold and piercing. "Who are you?" Liam called out, but the figure didn't reply. Instead, it raised an arm and pointed to a door on the left. Liam approached cautiously, pushing the door open. Inside was a room filled with photographs of himself, spanning his career. But something was off. In each image, his face was smudged, distorted, or missing entirely. He flipped through the photos, his hands trembling. On the back of one was scrawled a single word: "Remember." As he turned back toward the hallway, the figure was gone, but another door creaked open at the far end. Liam felt an invisible force compelling him forward. The next room was even stranger. A massive hourglass stood in the center, its sand trickling downward. Beside it was a mirror. When Liam looked into it, his reflection didn't move. It stared back at him with lifeless eyes, mouthing words he couldn't hear. He stepped closer and the reflection whispered, "It's already begun." The sand in the hourglass started to move faster. Panic surged through Liam as the walls of the room began to close in. He scrambled for an exit, finding a small trapdoor beneath the hourglass. Dropping into the darkness below, he found himself in what appeared to be a subway station. But the trains were strange, black, sleek, and silent, with no passengers inside. A sign on the platform read, "Next stop, Oblivion." He had no choice. The hourglass was still in his mind, its sand pouring relentlessly. He boarded the train, which began to move without a sound. The city outside the windows was warped and distorted, buildings melting into one another like wax. Suddenly, a voice came over the intercom. "You're running out of time, Liam. Remember what you've forgotten." "Remember what?" he shouted. The train screeched to a halt, throwing him forward. The doors opened to reveal a cavernous room filled with filing cabinets. Each drawer was labeled with a year, stretching back centuries. He opened one marked 2023 and found a folder with his name on it. Inside were documents detailing every moment of his life, but they stopped abruptly a week ago. Beyond that, the pages were blank. "You must rewrite them," the distorted voice echoed through the room. With no pen in sight, Liam felt the weight of the task crushing him. His hands began to tremble as he realized he didn't know how to rewrite his own story. The cabinets began to shake, their contents spilling out. Papers swirled around him, obscuring his vision. The voice grew louder. "Your time is up." And then, nothing. Liam awoke on a park bench in broad daylight. People walked by, indifferent to his presence. He reached for his phone, desperate to call someone, anyone, but his contacts were gone. When he approached a passerby, the man gave him a confused look. "Excuse me," Liam said, "do you know who I am?" The man frowned. "Should I?" Liam staggered back, his heart pounding. He turned to a newsstand, scanning the headlines. There was no mention of him, no posters of his films. It was as though he'd never existed. As the world moved on around him, Liam realized the cruel truth. The shadow had kept its promise.